Hi everyone, this is AmagonRosh, your garage kit nerd, and for this video I am going to present you my work on Supercello Jupiter from E2046. Allez, let's start checking the pieces. As usual, I also removed the tabs. You might think this is a little bit boring because you've seen it since my first video, but actually it is really important. It helps to evaluate what will be the work I need to provide, how many pieces do I have, and where do I need to be cautious. Oh, don't worry this time, I checked everything twice before throwing the rest away. I don't want to reproduce what I did with Supercello Mars. I realized I didn't put the step of cleaning since my first video with C18 versus Vegeta. I don't want you to think this is not an important step. You really need to clean thoroughly each piece of your kit before starting working on it. Remember, cleaning helps to remove the mold release and with it reduces the possibility to have the paint stripping. If you follow my videos, you might know now how pinning works. I drill a first hole with my Dremel, then put a sticky tack on the opposite piece and connect them together. The hole I drilled will leave a mark on the sticky tack and I will now know where to drill. I put some super glue on the roll to make sure it won't move and insert it. Here we are, the first pin is done. Pinning this kit was a nightmare, not because of the kit itself, but because of the direction I decided to take. I wanted to go too fast and match the impossible schedule I put on the video publishing, and as a result, I jumped into actions without thinking enough. I can tell you, I learned my lesson here. As I ended up gluing all the pieces for Mars, I will not go with magnets this time. Magnets are actually not that cheap and it is a waste to use them if we glue everything at the end. Okay, the arm, I clearly fucked them up. I told you I was in a hurry and didn't think through. Here is the best example. I drilled and inserted a rod without really looking at the angle. It creating strong pressure, and when I tried to remove it, bam, the arm exploded. I can tell you I panicked a bit at the beginning and then I finally turned on my brain. So first, I fix what could be fixed, and then, with the putty, I will replace the broken resin. And now this is putty time. I use polyester putty to fill all the gaps between the pieces, this way I don't have any loose parts or ugly holes. But before that, as usual, I create some cavities to help it stick better on the pieces. When it is done, I mix the polyester putty with the hardener, put a nice amount of Vaseline on the other piece to make sure the putty will stick only on the correct one, and press until I see it going outside. Then I remove the excess with my toothpick. If you want to know a trick here, I usually wait 5 minutes before removing the putty. It starts to be hard but not too much and it is easier to remove. Though, you need to be very careful and gentle, otherwise you might remove more than you need. Sometimes, if you are not sure, just leave it. It will take more time to sand, but you won't make any mistakes. And here is my poor broken arm. I just filled the broken parts with putty and put the shooter piece to shape everything. Now that I am done with the putty, I need to remove all the Vaseline before sanding, otherwise the sandpaper will be damaged and it won't work correctly. So I took my IPA bottle and cleaned all the pieces. I am now ready for sanding. You might have seen when I used the putty that the right arm and hand had a lot to fill, which means a lot to sand. But I also found a lot of seam lines on the hair, the back bow, and let's not forget about the clear parts that will require heavy sanding. It is okay. I sand it so much that even if I don't like it, it passes through me without any pain anymore. I put some background music or podcasts and I can sand for hours. Yeah, you heard me correctly. I listen to podcasts. I usually keep track of what is happening in the world when I sand. Clear parts require a lot of attention. You remember, I briefly explained when I was working on Venice that I used from 200 to 4000 sandpaper, but I didn't really explain why, so let me take a couple of minutes here. When you sand a surface, you create tiny scratches that will produce a more opaque surface. This is due to the light that is not reflecting as easily as with a completely flat surface. This is the same with the clear parts. When the surface doesn't have any scratches, the light goes through more easily. To go back to something more transparent, you need to reduce the depth of the scratches, which means using very thin sandpaper. And that's why I use up to 4000 sandpaper to reduce those scratches. A nice trick for you to know. When I am done with the sandpaper, I put a layer of clear gloss on top. This helps to practically make the scratches disappear. I promise, after reviewing the SMS per paints, I do a tutorial about it with more drawings and more concrete explanations. Phew, this sanding took some time. But now we are going to the priming step and making all these imperfections shine. Of course, priming is not here just to see the forgotten seam lines. It is also here to put a layer of paints that will stick to the resin and keep the paint still, even with some masking. I mean, when you don't have it stripping for weird reasons, like you didn't clean enough your kit at the beginning. But I was very lucky. I had practically zero paint removed this time. It helped me to keep my sanity. And remember, when you prime or when you paint, don't forget to remove all the dust on the pieces, otherwise it will mess up with your kit. When I had a look how the clear part will fit on the head, I realized I didn't attach the ponytail when I glued the clear pieces together, and a major gap between the front hair and the attack appeared. But no problem, I have my putty to fix it, and this time I made sure I put the ponytail on. This is finally the time to paint, but before, it is important to test what you will use. For me, I prefer to do it before starting anything with my airbrush. I go online to get references and use them to find the perfect colors or effects and do my mixes. For that, I use some individual paint dishes and plastic bottles. This way, everything is ready to pour. It is so much easier and faster. I will share with you in this video some of the paint I used, but if you want to have the full list and mixes, go to my Patreon page, you'll find everything there. And remember, the painting requires a lot of masking. I strongly encourage you to prepare this before you start painting too. I know it is frustrating as we are so close to finally taking the airbrush. But you know what is more frustrating? Having to stop painting because you don't have enough masking tape. As usual, I follow my routine and start with the skin tone. Since the beginning of this series, I use Modocolor Pro Mix 3 steps and I won't change it now. was a very difficult exercise. That was the first time I got so much air strength to shade. I really needed to be precise and steady. It took me a long time to do everything, and I'm still not 100% happy with the results, but I wasn't able to do better. I still see my hand is not very still and precise when I use airbrushes. I need to practice more.
Messing around, calling all you freaks and nerds. You're just missing what you want. My brother's going down the drain, my sister's living the dream, but everybody's singing along. It's okay, we'll all soon be gone.
I am going to be very honest with you. At first, I was not really sure about this green. I found it a little bit too bright, but whoa, when I saw it with the shading, I just thought it was an amazing color. Green is far from being my favorite one, so when I saw the results, I was just mind-blowing. I will need to add a bit more of the shading color to really have a great highlight of the shadow, but it is a pure success here. Yeah, I know. I am really modest.
Half the town screaming out in vain, the other half is fake, but everybody's singing along. It's okay, we'll all soon be gone. Hey, what's the matter with the bright red lights? Hey, in the moment when the world went blind, but everything's alright. We don't give a damn this time.
For the green parts, I use of course the SMS pearls. I went with green gold flip for the external lines and jade green for the center where all the energy is focused. My biggest fear, removing the masking. I am so nervous to have as much paint stripping as with moss. Please, 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 be okay, please, please. Oh, actually it is okay. It is hidden with the chest, so it can stay like this. Well, I'm not going to work on something that won't even be visible, but it is not the same for the rest, so let's see. Nope, no paint stripping. I am so relieved.
I'm not crossing that day, it would be a shame. So listen, baby, listen carefully, 'cause I got something to say. I feel us fading, listen carefully. Let's stop this charade, stop this charade.
And when I am done fixing the tiny painting issues, I clean all my paintbrush and paint dishes with some airbrush cleaner. Always keep your material clean, it is important. Now I can start and jump on the pastel. I think I won't have to put too much this time. My green color is right on top. Maybe I can highlight a little bit more the lighter parts, but otherwise it's okay. This time it will be only for my chest, gloves and panties. I will highlight the shade with the light blue. It will take all its depth with the white pearl. I really like how with just a simple color and a white pearl layer you can give a beautiful finish to the costume.
I'm gonna call you up in the name of love. Gonna call you up and tell you that I'm not giving up. In the name of love, I'm not giving up yet on you. In the name of love, in the name of love. In the name of love, in the name of love. It's easy, yeah. Falling in love, well, maybe for you. I think it's crazy, oh no, but I'll be damned if I'm not a fool. Here's what you don't know, feelings they go slow. I've just been caring for mine. Now I can feel it, now I believe it. Baby, tonight is the night. In the name of
Once I am done with the pastel, I need to protect it. As this is dry and doesn't stick much to the surface, I need to put a layer of Mr. Super Clear UV Cut from Mr. Obi, either flat or gloss, depending on the parts. For example, I use gloss for the gloves, chest and shoes, as I want them to have a glossy effect. And for the skirt, scarf or bow, I use flat to keep the matte finish. And after that, I continue my painting by working on the shoelaces. And I can tell you, it was tedious work. They are so small. I could have gone with masking, but it would have taken ages and I don't think I would have been able to do such a good job. It would have been horrible, to be honest.
So you need a little break, huh? Boy, say you need a little space, yeah. Boy, is it 'cause you can't be faithful? Boy, hope she's cool, unlike you. You ain't ready for a girlfriend, no. 'Cause you think I'll steal your weekends, no. So you make up shitty reasons for want it out. See, I'm not even mad, boy, but I'm confused. Shouldn't you be keeping me at 10 when you're 2? I can't help but feel sympathetic, I do. You think you're bad, boy, but I feel bad for you. Think you're bad, boy, think you're bad, boy, think you're bad, but I feel bad for you. I'm not even mad, I'm not even mad, I'm not mad, I'm not mad, I just feel bad for you. I was pretty when I met ya. be keeping me at 10 when you're 2. I can't help but feel sympathetic, I do. You think you're bad, boy, but I feel bad for you. Think you're bad, boy, think you're bad, boy, think you're bad, but I feel bad for you. I'm not even mad, I'm not even mad, I'm not mad, I'm not mad, I just feel bad for you. If you wanted to hurt me, well, you failed big time, 'cause I knew you would panic and run. I won't chase you, baby, I'm too good without. If you think that I'm crying, you're wrong. Think you're bad, boy, think you're bad, boy, think you're bad, but I feel bad for you. I'm not even mad, I'm not even mad, I'm not mad.
Now it is time to prepare the hair for its special treatment of shiny effects. It was a difficult choice for Jupiter. Venus and Mars have obvious choices for crystal colors, but with this kit I struggled. So I tried several Mr. Crystal color with some spoon, and the one that made my brain shout was turquoise green. It is definitely not the same color as Jupiter's hair, but the finish is really cool. Not too green, just enough to have the feeling she has sparkles in her hair. What is it now? Damn! When I removed the masking tape after finishing the glove, I had some polyester putty that ran away with it. And this is the result. I need to fix it. Here it is a pain, but nothing we can't fix easily. Just a bit of sanding to remove the paint, some UV curing light putty to fill the hole, sanding to have a perfect surface, and then priming and painting. And voila! You see, nothing impossible. And I can dig into Jupiter's eyes. Eyes are for me the most difficult part of a kit. If you mess up with them, your kit will look very weird, and it is even more difficult as I use Tamiya colors. You might have heard in other channels or forums that with acrylic paints you can easily remove it with some product without touching the rest, if you put some clear coat before, of course. It is true, but not with Tamiya. This doesn't really work actually, because Tamiya adds some chemicals. I have found a way, but it is not true 100%, so I prefer not to use it all the time. For the next kit, I will try the Vallejo paint and see if this is working better and I can remove the painting more easily. Though for this one, I didn't have them yet. It is not very easy to find it in Japan, so it takes a long time to deliver. Final reveal. This is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoy seeing me working on Supercellular Jupiter. I was quite excited about this kit as Jupiter is one of my favorite characters. She really impressed me in the anime from the 90s. She was so strong and fearless. I liked that she was always rescuing her friends even if the person was 10 times bigger than her. And she was also falling in love all the time, which was very funny. Her big heart really conquered me. And you, who is your favorite character? Did you like the video? Is there any more information you are missing and would like to see? Don't hesitate to let me know and comment. I will be very happy to answer all your questions and comments. If you enjoyed this video, take a few seconds to like, subscribe to my channel and click on this little bell to be informed when new videos arrive. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok to follow my progress. And don't hesitate to go to my Patreon page, where with a subscription you will have access to dedicated content, photos, videos, tutorial, and more. Just to be sure you are aware, Supercellular Jupiter will be on sale with the rest of the Senshis once I am done with the series. By then, all the small issues and imperfections I spotted will be corrected, don't worry. The next Senshi I will record will be Supercellular Mercury. It will be the last one before I start working on Supercellular Moon and Chibi Moon, which will close the series. Thank you very much for watching Supercellular Jupiter. See you soon, and in the meantime, pin, sand and paint as much as you can. This was AmagonRosh, your garage kit nerd.